Can you get my audio? Are we online? For all those watching online, we are just organising the final bits of our technology. Could we test microphones, please, for Councillors Nicholas and Councillor Hughes? Councillor Hughes, we cannot hear you. Councillor Nicholas? No, cannot hear you. Yes. Still can't hear Councillor Nicholas.
So we can see them if they raise their hands for votes.
Yes, we can. It just means that they won't be part of the commentary.
Questions.
Apologies, folks, and apologies for the gallery. It is 5:05. I'm going to start this meeting. In the meantime, our audio technicians are going to endeavour to get Councillor Hughes and Councillor Nicholas their audios fixed. Hopefully, before we get into the meat of this meeting, we will have that rectified. So, welcome everybody to the Council meeting 26th of March 2024. The recording and live streaming of council meetings. We are recording and live streaming, however, we're not getting the audio here. The CEO will read the following statement. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy.
All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. By submitting a question, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is to hold us more accountable and to improve the transparency of council's decision-making to our community. The full meeting is being recorded and streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Thank you. Would you all please rise and I'll read the acknowledgement of traditional custodians. Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are meeting today. Council also acknowledges all the traditional custodians of the wider lands of the area known as the Alpine Shire. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Thank you. Be seated. Item 3, confirmation of minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting the 27th of February. The recommendation that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting as circulated be confirmed. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillors Kelly and Councillor Janus. Could I have a show of hands, please? Those in favour? I'm assuming that Councillors Hughes and Councillor Nicholas cannot hear us. All right, sign language, item 3. We have a 4-2 vote. Thank you. That's carried. Apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Kelly Prime, who is still on leave, and we do have online, in one way or another, we have Councillors Hughes and Councillor Nicholas. They can hear me. That's excellent. Obituaries and congratulations, and I will start with Councillor Janus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of former councillor Tony Bennett. He was from Bright. He was a solicitor up there. He served on the council from 1997 to 2003 and also did one term of mayor. So it was in the days, I think, where there were 5 councillors on the Shire. He's with Charlie Duncan, Jason Reed, and I've forgotten the other 2, Julie Carroll, Chevelle Leshen. That's correct. So our condolences to Mr. Bennett's family. I do recall him in his bow tie quite a number of times at the court hearings.
Thank you,
just
Councillor.
one other, just as a congratulations, I want to congratulate the staff and participants of the Alpine Colour Fund Run held at the Myrtleford Rec Reserve on Saturday morning, although I didn't get coloured myself today because that day I had other duties, but it was lovely to see so many staff and their families participating and the number of young people who really took that event to heart and thoroughly enjoyed the day. It was a beautiful day, and thank you to all the organisers of that day with the council staff they were and volunteers. Very enthusiastic.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Keeble.
No, Mayor.
Councillor Kelly.
Just one item from me tonight, Mayor, just to acknowledge the Brighter Days Festival and the volunteers and the smoothness of that event this year. I think routinely I would hear otherwise as to how the event went, and I haven't had such feedback in 2024. So congratulations.
Councillors Hughes or Nicholas, do we have audio?
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes, any obituaries or congratulations?
Congratulations to everybody who attended to Buffalo Stampede on the weekend just gone. I know a lot of personal goals were set and met, and I know the mindset that was involved in doing that meant that I actually tackled that myself. So congratulations to the event, and that was proud of everybody who took those goals and anyone who gave a go. It can be quite a mental strength at the same time as a physical thing. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Nicholas, anything? My only comment would be to congratulate the conveners of the forum in Dedarang a couple of weeks ago for the BESS, the battery energy storage system. Over 200 people there. It was a very well attended event, and I'm just observing Miss Mary Pike sitting in here, thinking that what a shame the actual forum didn't go ahead that night as well. It would have been a very big night in the Koowa Valley. So yeah, congratulations to those people that did. It was a very well attended event and very respectful, all of the speakers that particular night. Moving on. Item 6, declarations of councillors over conflict of interest. Does anybody have a conflict in any of our meeting agenda tonight? No, thank you. Public questions. For those of you that do have a copy of the agenda in front of you, what we have now included in this is the actual governance rules behind our public questions or our questions on notice time. I will reiterate 2 questions per person, and that includes from the floor. Questions, however, are preferred if they would come in writing by 5 p.m. the night before, simply because if there is a technical answer or something that need to be thoroughly sorted through, then it gives the officers a chance to actually have a look at those questions and to be able to compile a proper response to those. The other thing I will point out tonight is that replies to questions on notice, whether they be written form or from the floor, are not necessarily, they are not then emailed, or the responses are not sent back to the actual questioner. The response that is heard within the meeting as part of the minutes is the response. Thank you. So that being the case, I will move to the questions on notice that have been received at the council chambers in writing first, then I will invite questions from the floor. Question 1 tonight actually comes from Council Watch, which is for those that don't know, it's a organisation in Melbourne that keeps a weather eye on councils. Sometimes I wish they would probably extend their remit to become Government Watch as well, but they haven't. However, they have submitted 3 questions, and because one of the questions is quite actually, we have a very simple answer for it, I will allow the 3 questions in this instance. However, in the future, there will be only 2 questions. Question 1, what amount of waste enforcement costs in the current financial year 23-24 has the council included in its waste levies charged to residents? And if you would just like to refer really briefly to the GS7 in the governance rules on public questions, this is the first one. It is related in this instance to an item on the agenda. We do have a waste item on the agenda tonight. So in answer to the question 1, the answer is actually 0. There is no amount of waste enforcement costs, so we have 0. Question 2, what amount of revenue has council included in the current financial year from waste enforcement actions? No infringements were issued, so therefore there's no amount of revenue. And question 3, has the revenue been offset in the waste levy or applied to council's general revenue streams? Because any infringements to waste come under our waste policy, any infringement monies that may be collected in the future have to be applied to our general waste reserve, not to general revenue. That was question 1. Question 2, this is relating to Dinner Plain, and it comes from Jane Sullivan, and I have got the Director of Assets, Mr. Alan Rees, to handle these questions. Could you take over? Thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first question is, can the Alpine Shire update Dinner Plain homeowners on the ownership, operation, asset value of the Dinner Plain ratepayer-funded TV network? So thank you, Jane, for your question. In response, with regards to the ownership, the Alpine Shire Council is the owner. With regards to the operation, previously the Alpine Shire Council was responsible for the maintenance and service upkeep of the network. In March last year, officers brought a report forward to Council due to the fact that the network had come to the end of its life, or was coming to the end of its life, and recommended that we proceed with decommissioning the service, which Council supported at the time. However, feedback from the community is that the NBN and Telstra upgrades have not yet reached full coverage of the Dinner Plain village, and as such, the Alpine Shire Council is contracting the Dinner Plain Community Association to provide maintenance support via a Memorandum of Understanding for the bridging period, which is expected to last 12 to 18 months until NBN and Telstra provide adequate coverage for the village in its entirety. The question on the asset value, unfortunately, due to the network being at the end of its life, determining its true value is a little complex, and I'll come back to you, Jane, with our interpretation of what that value is. Jane's second question is, who is now in charge of Dinner Plain marketing and what do they do and spend? So previously, Council had a dedicated Dinner Plain Economic Development and Events Officer. However, these responsibilities have now been transferred to the Economic Development Team for economic development activities and to Council's events team, who take responsibility for arranging events or encouraging events to be arranged in Dinner Plain. Just for reference, these events organisers are encouraged to apply for community grants through our event program. And in the last couple of years, we've had no applicants for those events come forward. And so council officers have continued the tradition of the Easter events and the start of the season. In terms of the specifics about how much is spent and who does the work, so currently the Economic Development Team is tasked with undertaking a variety of destination marketing initiatives at Dinner Plain. The overall annual allocation of budget is $90,000, and this money funds the expenses like joint initiatives with Tourism Northeast, social media campaigns, printing collateral, updating the image library, and advertising for Dinner Plain specifically. And we've recently just bought into Tourism Northeast's support and marketing program for the upcoming winter season, which will be launching soon. The team is on course to allocate the entire funding for this financial year for Dinner Plain marketing. In addition, there's a budget of $60,000 in Council's events team budget for hosting and promoting events and acquiring events infrastructure up at Dinner Plain. So we encourage event organisers or prospective event organisers to reach out to the events team and bring their ideas forward so that we can create a vibrant event season up at Dinner Plain this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rees. Question 3 relates to council of numbers and the planning resourcing, and it comes from Mr. Brian Littlechild, and I believe Brian's in the audience tonight. Thank you for joining us, Brian. I will pass over to Ms. Havercroft, the Director of Customer Community, for this question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So some of the preamble: the City of Casey has a population of around 350,000 people and 3 administrators, 1 administrator per 120,000 people. Alpine Shire has a population of around 15,000 people. Most of the land is not under state control, and it has 7 councillors, 1 councillor per 2,000 people. Question 1. I believe Alpine Shire would save approximately $350,000 a year if it were to have only 1 councillor representing each of Myrtleford, Brighton, Mount Beauty. That is 1 councillor per 5,000 people. What is Council's view on this possibility? In 2015, the Victorian Electoral Commission made a recommendation that Alpine Shire Council continued to consist of 7 councillors elected from an unsubdivided municipality. It is the Victorian Electoral Commission who run and manage this process of engagement and not Council. The Act requires the VEC to conduct an electoral representation review before every 3rd General Council election, or earlier if gazetted by the Minister for Local Government. This will therefore be in advance of the 2028 council elections for the Alpine Shire, and at the appropriate time we invite Mr. Littlechild to get involved in that review. Question 2. Alpine Shire appears to be severely under-resourced to undertake its planning responsibilities in a timely manner. What is Council's view of amalgamating with another shire, shires or regional city to remedy this serious planning inadequacy? Thanks for your question, Mr. Littlechild. Last month, you will have noted that Council secured a new planning coordinator. This means that the team are now almost at full strength. We work closely with other councils and are currently collaborating with our neighbouring shires to implement both a new planning and building services computerised system. These changes will mean that customers can lodge their applications online and, in time, review where their application is at in the process. This exciting development is currently being tested and our data being assured. We ask that applications that come into Council have all the necessary information to reduce the need for requests for further information. In other areas, unlike some councils, we have higher demands in relation to bushfire and flood controls, and therefore more upfront work can be required. This can be frustrating for those who are seeking to erect a shed or a carport, but it is the planning scheme that the team have to administer. If you have a particular concern about an application, please can you reach out to the team? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. I believe one of the councillors wishes to say something to this particular question as well. Councillor Janus.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question, Mr Littlechild. Could I just refer you to the annual report, Alpine Shire 2022-23, page 45. It gives a breakdown of the expenses from councillors over that period. I haven't got the final thing of it, just a quick back of envelope. It's about 380 all up. So you might need to revise your figure work.
For the 4 years.
Roughly. Back of envelope. Yeah, yeah, roughly. No. It's if you look at the tables given on the annual report, it'll show you exactly how much each councillor cost.
That includes the on-costs?
Yes, it'll be with expenses. Yeah, it's a good reference for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Thank you, Mr Littlechild. Question 4, Wandy Walk signage and track survey. I believe that both directors will be answering this. So can I hand over to you, please, Director of Assets, Mr Rees.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. These are questions from Bernard Eden. So Bernard, thanks for your questions. The first one is, can the Shire please commit to the installation of detailed signage of closures on Bennett's Trail, Alpine Park and Wandy Walk at the Doherty Bridge end? We will investigate the situation, evaluate the requirements and install signage based on the work that we do and what that requires us to install. Thank you, Bernard.
Question 2, I will hand over to Director of Community.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could you please provide an update of the Wandy Walk track survey works, as it was my understanding this was being undertaken in January 2024. So the request for quotations closed on the 8th of March 2024 and the evaluation of the 9 submissions that were received continues. I've asked, so I'm on the evaluation panel as is another member of the planning team. That work continues and should be completed within the coming week. The work is split into 2 parts, one being a land survey and the other being a range of options for proposed solutions. And we will come back with an update when the work's underway.
Thank you, Ms Havercroft. We are now up to the point in our meeting where we do have public questions from the floor. So, as I have stipulated earlier on tonight, 2 questions please only, and we don't need a lot of background unless we are unfamiliar with the question. If the question can't be answered, then please, we would like you to give your information to one of the officers and we will get the answer back to you prior to the next council meeting. So, do I have anybody who would like to ask a question? Thank you. Yes, please, Ms Pike. And I think the microphone is on. Thank you.
This relates to the public questions number 7 in the agenda for tonight. So it is part of the agenda.
Thank you.
And it deals with the G7, that's the first point, is not related to an item on the agenda. And that's at your discretion, as I understand.
Correct.
From what you've printed here today. So
correct.
If anyone stands up in future and wants to ask a question that's not on the agenda, you can just tell them to sit down.
I certainly can.
Okay. I was surprised when I saw this in writing because I don't think that's ever been delivered to us before.
No, it hasn't, but those governance rules have been in place for a very long time.
What about the questions that come on notice?
Questions on notice, that's a good question. We can, sorry, there is still the discretion to not include them. Yep. All right, so anybody else like a question? Now, Mr Littlechild, sorry, if...
There was a period when Councillor Janus was mayor. There was about a 2-year period where there were no questions on the notice.
Thank you. I was on council at that time and I cannot quite remember that, but that is at the discretion of the convener of the meeting. Yes, you're quite correct. Sorry, there's a lady in the back there. Would you like to come forward to the microphone, please? And just state your name first and then questions. Thank you.
My name's Helen Foster.
Thanks, Helen.
I've got a question about your draft land development strategy, and I know it's not on.
Realise.
The question I have, I'll just mention the part of the strategy that I can see on your website. So there's a current capacity of 1,266 of the 1,625 homes needed for the population growth to
Correct.
2041. And short-term rental and vacant properties continue to strain the housing outcomes. So, given that the Shire is constrained by bushfire overlays, flooding, topography and vegetation considerations because of public land, and the servicing constraints from north-east water, from a water and sewage perspective, and I'm
Certainly.
quite familiar with their current limitations from their sewage services perspective. How are the current planning permits in play for the Shire with that indicate, 300 properties, another 40 properties in other applications going to fit into these numbers? So it's probably a question for on note to take on notice, but how are these new permit applications factored into your figures that you've got in your draft plans?
If I possibly, Helen, I can get another Helen to answer that. My understanding simply though, I might get Mr. Rees to answer that one instead, even though it is a planning question. My understanding to that though is that the 1,200 that have been identified already are current empty blocks and or the large developments that we've got in Bright, Glenbourne Drive and in Myrtleford as well up on Mummery Road. So they're included in that. So the extra lot, the extra 400 that we're looking at, they have to be sourced with the land development strategy. Would that be a fair summation?
I'll have to take the second part on notice,
Right.
Mr. Mayor. I don't want to speculate, and I'd like to just confirm exactly what those assumptions are, and happy to come back to you.
Helen, would you like Mr. Rees to come back to you with it? Certainly. We'll just get before you leave, could we just get your email, please? Thank you. Anybody else from the floor with some questions? Yes, certainly. Thanks.
Trish Cross from Mount Beauty. This question is about the issue of free camping. As an early morning walker and jogger around Mount Beauty and Toowoomba South, I regularly come across obvious free campers. There are Alpine Shire Council signs up saying no camping beside the river, etc. But these are obviously ignored. The free campers might be in camper vans or tents or swags, and apart from two sites that I've seen them, there are no toilet facilities anywhere. So where do these people, what do they use? I would like to know who checks these free campers. Is there a ranger? No, I don't think there is in Mount Beauty. Is there a ranger who monitors the illegal campers and moves them on? Or is it something that a member of the public could identify and send on to Alpine Shire or the police or whatever? I don't know. I just don't think, there's a couple of caravan parks in close proximity to these people, but they're still not...
Thank you. It's a pertinent question, especially with Easter coming up. Yes, I'll get Ms Havercroft to give you a quick answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Trish. So we do have a ranger in Mount Beauty, and but we would be really interested in having the details at info@ so that we can follow them up. And we do regularly move on free campers when we come across them, particularly where the signs clearly state that there is no camping allowed. We just need to know about them rather than us going regularly out and patrolling. We don't have that kind of resource.
So is this an issue in Bright and Myrtleford as well?
It's
Yes.
across the Shire.
Let you know.
Let info@alpineshire.vic.gov. Yep, and we'll get on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Timely question. Anybody else from the floor would like? Certainly.
Now, I'm going to talk about the toilets again.
Mr Dyer.
We spoke last month and we come to the conclusion that it's been nearly 18 years I've been talking about toilets around the Alpine Shire. I had an incident last Thursday, I think it was. I met Nino Mortone at the bus shelter and I was talking to Nino about the toilets and he said, Ray, when I was mayor, I went and checked the toilets at Myrtleford, Bright and Mount Beauty all the time. I didn't say to Nino, but it was one thing I was going to say to him, but I didn't. The only thing you didn't do, Nino, was ask me. Why? And I'm saying to the council now, why haven't you spoken to me about the toilets? And I'll let you know exactly what's going on, because at this very moment...
Thank you, Mr Dyer. No, don't hang on me. Mr Dyer, you have mentioned toilets, so therefore you have mentioned toilets often. You have spoken to us about toilets. It's not a case of us asking you, you are telling us. So what is your question tonight?
Well, my question is, are you going to fix the toilets, get them up to the standard that is respectable, and the maintenance of it also, because at this very moment, last Saturday I went to Cundy Park toilets.
Yes.
I was absolutely disgusted. There was no toilet paper, no hand towels, no detergent. The tap doesn't work. It hasn't worked for 3 weeks, according to one young fella that pointed it out to me that the problem was. And there's also, it's somewhat suffocated or put all over the stainless steel bowl, which does not have a seat on it, it's just stainless steel bowl.
Right.
All right. That's one. Rotary Park, at the bowl there at Rotary Park...
Mr Dyer, you're talking about a common complaint about toilets.
No.
Your question is...
are you going to fix the toilets?
So can we answer that question for you, please?
Well, I haven't finished yet, Mr Mayor.
Is there a second question, is there?
No, there is a second question, but I haven't finished with the toilets yet.
No, but I don't want it. We don't want a background, thank you. We already know the background. We have heard it so many times before. Otherwise, I will cancel you and you'll be sitting down. Mr Dyer, do you have a second question? Then we'll answer your first one.
My second question is...
Yes?
To the CEO.
Through me.
Okay. Will, we've spoken, and it's been about the toilets, it's been about the trees, and I'm not happy with any of that. Now, a year and a half ago I spoke to you just about now. I spoke a few things. I said it was about 5% of what I want to talk to you about, but that 5% is only one thing you've done, and that was clean the bins, the recycle bins and the general bins around town. But last month, the Mayor had great pleasure in telling me that it was Australia Day clean-up this weekend.
Correct.
That's right. I took it very offensively.
Why?
Because when you had no accountability whatsoever, you're making a joke of it.
Mr Dyer.
No.
Mr Dyer, no, you have had your time. Thank you, Mr Littlechild. I understand why you're leaving. Mr Dyer, you have had your time. You've had two questions.
My question is to Will. I
Yes.
haven't finished my question.
Well, please state your question.
I was going to come to this meeting, Will, and ask you to stand down as the CEO because you're not capable.
That is enough, Mr Dyer. That is not respectful, and you can sit down now. You can sit down now.
I'll tell you what,
Your
Mr.
microphone will be turned off.
It's called dictatorship and it's called
Thank you for that. Thank you. We did have one question out of that. Mr Rees, do you have any answer at all tonight?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Mr Dyer, for bringing these matters to our attention. We'll pass them on to the contractor and make sure that we audit their performance, and please continue to provide any improvement opportunities and we'll take them up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Dyer. Any other questions from the floor tonight? No? Thank you very much. Item 8, presentation of reports by officers. The Chief Executive Officer, Mr Will Jeremy. Contracts approved under delegation by the CEO are nil. However, 8.1.2, Councillor and Staff Interaction Policy. Thank you, Mr Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So a draft councillor and staff interaction policy has been developed for consideration and for council's approval for release to the community for consultation. So I've provided a bit of background here, and under the Local Government Act 2020, the CEO's responsibility includes managing interactions between members of council, staff and councillors, and ensuring that policies, practices and protocols that support arrangements for interaction between members of council, staff and councillors are developed and implemented. Further to this, in January 2023, the Local Government Inspectorate published a report, and in that report it was recommended councils are strongly encouraged to develop a policy to guide the relationships and interactions between councillors and council staff. The other thing that we frequently observe is when monitors are appointed to councils to address issues that are identified in those councils, it's very frequently that councillor staff interaction are flagged as one of those issues that the monitors are being appointed to address. So we've drafted a policy here which is intended to respond to the recommendation of the Local Government Inspectorate and to address my obligation under the Local Government Act to appropriately manage interactions between councillors and staff. I think it's worth noting that the adoption of this policy as it stands, if it were to go through the process and be adopted, would not require any current change to the way that councillors and council staff interact. It is merely a framework to capture how this organisation is currently engaging, the engagement between the councillor team and my team. But the recommendations are, as noted, that Council endorses that draft policy and makes it available for the community for consultation for a period of no less than 28 days, invites the written submissions from the public on the draft policy, considers those submissions and then considers a recommendation to adopt the Council and staff interaction policy at a future Council meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Keeble.
Administration really, but I note the CEO saying that that won't make any difference in our shire. This type of policy will probably make a difference in other shires, given some of the things that happened in the last, several years, couple of years. So it's a good policy to have. My one question is, will the policy be available to the public on the website or other?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Yes, it's our intent. This would be a policy adopted by Council that would be made available to the public on our website.
This is also going out for community consultation. Councillor Keeble, item 1. Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, Mayor. I think it is best practice to have a policy of this nature, setting out expectations and providing guidance for interaction between councillors and council officers. I think there's a balance to be struck in terms of practicalities and pragmatism. I'm not sure this draft meets that balance in all respects, but that's part of the benefit of putting it out for community consultation. So for those who have an eye for governance and these matters, we'd welcome your feedback.
Thank you. Councillor Janus.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with my friend just spoken. This council operates very well, I believe, but perhaps there's elections coming up at the end of this year, and those that are thinking of standing for council, it would be a good policy for them to have a good read of, knowing that the rules and regulations. Although I've spent a lot of my professional life dealing with rules and regulations, sometimes I wonder whether we are over-regulated at times, and I'd hate to think that something like this could stifle the goodwill in small communities where people often interact. For whatever, you might be at a sports event, you could be at a night out at a wedding or a funeral even, and often the situation of work may arise just in general conversation. So I'd hate for this to be some sort of stymied document that stops any of the goodwill in relation to that. I can see the general gist of it and why it's required. It's not the government that have said that we should have it, it's the inspectorate. They've got a role, yes, and Councillor Keeble has said there's been other councils that this policy would apply to, but we also have a councillor code of conduct, and this policy should work hand in glove with the councillor code of conduct. You know, it'd be interesting to get the community feedback on it.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillors online, any commentary? Yes, Councillor Hughes. Sorry, we're just going to get your... Councillor Nicholas, anything to add? Councillor Keeble, any further comment?
No.
Excellent. Let's put this to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. Item 8.2, the Director of Assets, Mr. Alan Rees, FOGO Curbside Collection Service Implementation Review. Thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to update Council and the community on the successful implementation of the Food Organic Garden Organic Curbside Collection Service, otherwise known as FOGO. It's hard to imagine that this went live on the 31st of July 2023. And I just want to bring a few highlights to everyone's attention this evening. Almost 6,300 FOGO bins were distributed across the Shire, with the vast majority of those being for domestic use. But there's been a pleasing uptake from commercial properties, with over 100 bins delivered to commercial properties. So it shows that it's got some interest from across the spectrum. But by way of, one of the challenges with FOGO and waste is the contamination rates, and keeping a clean feedstock really helps the downstream value of any processing. And I'm really pleased to advise that contamination rates from October, November, December have been sort of less than 1%, 0.13% in October, 0.04% in November, and 0.01% in December, which is a really great validation of the seriousness with which the service has been adopted, and also, I guess, some of the education material that's been successful in raising people's awareness in terms of what to pop in and what to keep out. And the other piece of information which is helpful just to kind of, validate is the volume of FOGO that's been collected. 250 tonnes, 217 tonnes, 200 tonnes. So there's a significant volume that's been deferred from landfill, which was one of the main objectives of the service.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. A seconder? Councillor Nicholas? Yep. Councillor Keeble?
Thanks, Mayor Forsyth. I know that, thank you for the report, Mr. Rees. I know that the introduction of FOGO for some people was a bit problematic, and but I think when you look at these figures and you see the savings of what's going into landfill, and you extrapolate that out long term, those are amazing figures. I'm buoyed by the fact that at our private residencies, we get contamination rates that are very low compared to the contamination rates in the public recycling bins and those bins. So it is thanks to all our householders who are doing the right thing with FOGO. I do notice, even in my street, you know, people will be gardening and their FOGO bin will be full and they'll knock on the neighbour's door and they'll notice that it's not full and they'll all help each other fill those bins with their gardening during the week. And that's just terrific for people who can't get to the transfer stations or, you know, have troubles moving on their greened waste. So, yeah, good all around from my point of view. Thanks for the report.
Thanks, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Nicholas.
Yep, additional to what Councillor Keeble said, it's terrific to see this rollout and low contamination rates, etc. But I do have a question of Mr. Rex, or to Indiana about tonight. When we were putting together the whole program modelling the expectation of green waste picking up, knowing that more people put garbage bags in than they did already in, and people took it to the transfer station or Boots or whatever it was. Do we have any idea how we're going against that modelling?
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. What's interesting is that the overall volume has increased beyond what we expected, and I think it's to Councillor Keeble's observation that people are actually finding far more value out of the opportunity to use the FOGO service rather than either doing burn-offs or perhaps even just leaving matter to compost on their own properties. So it's been a really greater than expected uptake in terms of volume.
Right, yeah. That's one of the other place that people perhaps are not taking green waste now is to dump in the bushes. So, good for that.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. Further commentary? Councillor Janis.
Yeah, I was at the market on Myrtleford Market on Saturday, and it was great to see the people from Halve Waste there with a exhibition explaining to residents what should and shouldn't go into bin, and made it really easy and simple for them. There was a lot of questions. I had a few because I was concerned about particularly the soft plastics and moulded plastic containers, which one should they go into? And it was explained to me very well by those young ladies. And waste, I think we're paying roughly $200 a tonne now for waste, Mr. Rees, is that right? Going to landfill, roughly? Is it 200?
I don't have all of the details, Councillor Janis,
if we say,
but I think it is around about that range.
Around in that range. So if we say already 400 tonne going to landfill, you know, those costs are offset in the waste charges. So you know, it's a good, and I think, you know, offhand how much money we spend on waste.
On a yearly basis?
On a yearly basis for our budget?
Thank you, Councillor Janis. Yes, it's a significant part of our budget. So we spend in total approximately $6 million a year on waste management services. That's curbside collection, public bins, and also landfill rehabilitation. That's approximately 35% of our rateable income. So it's a significant part of our business.
That is a significant amount, a percentage, yeah. Thanks for that. And yeah, I know I was a little bit about the green bin, but because I do a lot of my own composting, but I can tell you every week mine is out there and it's full. Right, thanks.
Councillor Hughes.
I was actually surprised to see some of the statistics come up in terms of how well it has rolled out, and I think that's a great thing. I'm very, very happy with that. I talk to people quite regularly, and the hesitation was there at the start. There's no denying that, but I think with time and education, usually the people who are hesitant to uptake on these types of things, it's usually around that lack of educational understanding of processes. So this is where I urge those that still haven't got their answers or have theories, that they just reach out to get that knowledge that they require to continue to help make this an easier and better process.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble, I'll go back to you.
Nothing further to add.
Nothing further. We have a recommendation there, which is just noting the implementation. Those in favour, please. Thank you, that's carried. Item 8.2.2, bore water supply for Dinner Plain snowmaking. Thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for bore water supply for the Dinner Plain snowmaking project. Just by way of a little bit of background, in 2023, Council engaged contractors to drill a borehole to secure water for the production of snow up at Dinner Plain as part of the Dinner Plain snowmaking project, but unfortunately that bore was a duster, yielding very low flows, and as a result of that we now need to award a second contract to drill further test pilot bores and hopefully secure the targeted flow of 6 to 8 litres per second, which is the reason for the recommendation to award this contract. Probably one of the issues just to be aware of is that if we are unable to secure the appropriate flow rates from these bores that we plan to sink, then we would need to manage these new snow gun operations by phasing them using the surplus water supply that is available only once the Dinner Plain community's domestic requirements are met. So we're, I guess, from a criticality perspective, striking water is a really important part of the overall success of this project. It's fully funded, so no council funds, and there's sufficient allocation within the budget to award this contract. So the recommendation is for councillors to consider that and award the contract to KH Adams and Sons.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Councillor Kelly, Councillor Keeble. Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Rees. So this is, I guess, a second attempt to secure a water supply, is my reading of the report. What's the confidence level of the service provider, or is there some kind of indicative? I think we're looking for 10, 15 times the flow rate from the first bore that was sunk. Is there any information available to inform the decision to do a second bore?
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. So there are 2 existing bores that supply the Dinner Plain community with their potable water supply, and both of those yield 10 to 12 litres per second. So we know water is available. That's the geomorphology that can be slightly confounding with faults and other matters that make it a little more complex. The preferred areas have been identified. There is some constraint about not drilling too close to existing bores and potentially impacting the water tables around them. So we do have high confidence that water is available, and hence the option for 5 pilot holes. Obviously, if we strike water at the appropriate flow in the first one, we won't need to proceed.
And just lastly, with all optimistically, with new water supplies up there, is there any benefit or summertime resilience opportunity in terms of additional water for firefighting or otherwise?
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. So part of the infrastructure for this project does include additional tank capacity, and so that would be available if the need arose for fire support.
Thanks, Mr. Rees.
Councillors? No? Online? Questions? No? Excellent. In that case, let's put this one to the vote. Thank you. Those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you. That is carried. Item 8.2.3, Nimmo Pedestrian and Cyclist Bridge, Design and Construct. Again, thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report relates to the design and construction of a pedestrian and cyclist bridge over the Ovens River next to the existing Nimmo Road Bridge along the Buffalo River Road in Myrtleford. This new bridge is to provide an extension to the existing shared path on Standish Street and to connect it with the Nimmo Reserve. It's been a great aspiration for the Myrtleford community for a long time, and we're really excited to be able to bring this forward for recommendation to award this contract and get this bridge installed for the community.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. I was waiting for that. Could we have a seconder, please? Councillor Keeble, thank you. Councillor Janus.
Well, if we weren't sitting at plastic tables here, I'd probably get up on a wooden table and do a little tap dance because it's taken so long. This is a greatly needed facility for the people of our town, and particularly for the young people and young mums and walkers and that are now using the trail, the Riverloop trail, coming in from town, young people going down to the river. It'll be such a great asset for the community. I note that we had a budget of $750,000 that was funded by Bushfire Recovery Victoria, and thank you to them for that. And the price is $540,000, so roughly $209,000 we've got left over. Will that be used to do some paving and that in the area, just to make it so much easier? You don't get your pram stuck in the mud, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Yes, we would look to enhance the entire environment as far as we can with the funding that's available.
Yeah. So look, it's a great linkage to those areas, and I'm almost having a bet that we're going to get that finished before Vic Roads actually finish the upgrade of the bridge that's been going on for a few months now. So we'll have a little race with them. I reckon we can be more efficient.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Keeble. Nothing? Any commentary from other councillors regarding this one? No, I think it's a great outcome, and congratulations to the engineering team. Put this to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you. I think that is unanimous. Thank you. 8.2.4, the Ablett Pavilion upgrade. Again, thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report relates to the award of a contract for the construction of an upgrade to the Ablett Pavilion in Myrtleford. Probably by way of background, this has really been an initiative that's been championed by the Macnamara Reserve Committee of Management, who sought funding directly through the Black Summer Bushfire Recovery Program. And once they were successful in securing the program, then collaborated with Council, who've now taken over as the nominated administrator and deliverer of this project, which will be a great improvement and enhancement to the Ablett Pavilion. We'll be working with the user groups to ensure we minimise disruptions during sporting seasons and events, and the team are working with the organisers on that front. Again, this is fully funded, but we do need to get all things completed by the 31st of March, so if Council were minded to award this contract tonight, that'll enable us to crack on.
Not putting any pressure on there, Mr. Rees. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Mover? Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Seconder? Councillor Kelly. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mr. Rees. It's a rather large upgrade to the facility, Myrtleford Ablett Pavilion. And I think there was a large upgrade to that pavilion, it's got to be 14 years ago, maybe 12, 14 years ago. So this is the completion of that upgrade. Once this upgrade is done, where does the building sit? Is it fully upgraded once this upgrade's done?
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Yes, this is part of a long aspiration, so really the second phase of the upgrade. As you'd be aware, we've all been struck with increasing costs of delivery, construction, labour, so we're unable to complete the entire scope of what that aspiration was, and there is still some unfinished business there, which will we've invested in the design work, so in future years when construction funding opportunities emerge, we'd keep our eyes open to be able to do that final bit. But this will be a significant enhancement.
Councillor Kelly?
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Rees, just a very quick question on the recommendation. The organisation's name, Foresight, is that I can think of a number of Foresights. I thought I'd just check in on the spelling of this one as the contractor on this one.
Should be number 4, I think. Is that what you're saying?
So, well, I'm not sure. I just thought, just double checking it's the correct organisation that's identified.
Yes, it's not...
Not one of the other
No.
ones.
No,
Okay,
this is
no
correct.
worries. Thank you.
No. Yeah, and I have no conflict in this one. Right. It's different, totally different spelling. Any other commentary from my councillors online? No? Thank you. Any other commentary? Councillor Janus?
Bobby Mack will be pretty happy tonight.
I think so. Councillor Keeble, any wrap-up?
I don't want to be too political about it all. It's really good to see that the Myrtleford Ablett Pavilion gets done because it's a well-used facility. Bright Pavilion has been upgraded, and I know that there is a master plan or a scope for works for the Mount Beauty Pavilion, so it would be lovely to see down the track that pavilion in Mount Beauty get some love and some money as well.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Let's put these recommendations to the vote. Those in favour, please. Thank you. We have that carried. Moving over to the Director of Customer Community, Ms Habercroft, Draft Fair Access Policy 8.3.1.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to the public exhibition of the Draft Fair Access Policy. The Fair Access Policy Roadmap aims to develop a statewide foundation to improve the access to and use of community sports infrastructure for women and girls. From the 1st of July 2024, all Victorian councils will need to have gender equitable access and use policies in place to be considered eligible to receive infrastructure funding. These policies will ensure that women and girls can fully participate in and enjoy the benefits of community sports with fair opportunity and access to all local facilities. This draft fair access policy has been developed with publicly available information in consultation with key internal stakeholders and other councils nearby. All councils are putting in place something similar to, or this, fair access policy based on 6 key principles that form the action plan that is associated with the policy itself. And the recommendation this evening is that Council endorses the draft fair access policy for public exhibition for a period of 28 days, invites public submissions, consider those submissions and brings for adoption at a later Council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Janus. Councillor Keeble.
Not being a conflict of interest, having 4 daughters that play sport from time to time, but the fair access policy is a policy that unfortunately is needed, and it'd be good to see that the facilities have both equal share in, toilets and change rooms and in all those spaces. So all good from me.
Excellent. Councillor Janus.
These sort of initiatives just shows maturity in our thinking going forward for equality.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I think that these kinds of policies again kind of future-proofing what's going to be moving forward and the strategic direction we want to be and how it is that we look at when we upgrade our facilities. We've got to remember a lot of our facilities have been built for a very long time, and in these upgrades, I think it's imperative that we think about what this looks like for user groups as a whole.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholas, any comment? Thank you. Yes, Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, Mayor. Only to point out, inclusive facilities and having facilities that everyone feels comfortable to use to enjoy the sports or the passion they're interested in is incredibly important to us. And also, this kind of policy means we will be eligible for funding to address these needs. And sometimes it's a sporting facility or some other facility that was not actually built that long ago that wasn't well considered for all the types of users. So going back to address those, I really look forward to that. So thank you.
Excellent. And just to follow up, one of the recommendations, just the public submissions regarding this draft policy. Please, if you've got networks out there, get everybody just to get on board. Councillor Keeble, any final comment?
I think, this policy here is aimed towards girls and women in sport and community infrastructure. I know in some other venues and schools, and I think something that Councillor Kelly is relating to, is about having gender-neutral areas. And so I know that, I'm wondering where this policy will lead to in regards to gender-neutral, because in many schools there are gender-neutral toilets, there are cubicles, and you go into your toilet and change room of your own. Anyway, just a comment about that and gender neutrality in those policies.
Thank you. Okay, let's put this to the vote. It's just, this is a draft policy that's going out for public exhibition. Those in favour? Thank you. Unanimously carried. 8.3.2, Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes from February 2024. Thank you, Ms Havercroft.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting that was held on the 16th of February 2024. The key items presented to and considered by the Audit and Risk Committee at this meeting were reports on the Bright Valley Development Risk Profile, an after-action review of the 22-23 annual financial and performance statement process, and also a detailed look at some of the audit action registers that were being refined as part of the Audit Risk Committee's general updating of our systems and processes. The Bright Valley Development, in particular, considered the risks related to ensuring that the statutory planning process has got compliance through all of the conditions that are attached to that planning application. The after-action review for the 2022-23 financial report really focused on meeting deadlines and sticking to the timelines that we have all agreed, and the audit action registers provided a refreshed register look with a particular focus at the VARGO reviews and the comments that have been associated with them in the past. So this evening's...
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Seconded. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Keeble.
No, really as read and as presented, thank you.
All right, Councillor Kelly.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. Councillor Janus, any commentary? You were at this meeting?
Oh, look, I was at the meeting. It's their unconfirmed minutes, so it's as read.
Thank you. Online, any commentary? No, thank you. Recommendation, let's receive these notes of the unconfirmed minutes. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. 8.3.3, the reappointment of Independent Audit Risk Committee members. Thank you, Ms Havercroft.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to recommend the reappointment of 2 independent members to the Council's Audit and Risk Committee for a further 3-year term. There's details around whether these individuals are on their 2nd or 3rd term. So the recommendation this evening is that we reappoint Jason Young to the Audit and Risk Committee for a 3-year term expiring on the 30th of April 2027, and that will be his 2nd term as part of the Audit and Risk Committee, and that we reappoint Gerard Moore to the Audit and Risk Committee for a 3-year term expiring on the 30th of April 2027, and that will be his final.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Seconder. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Janus.
No, look, these gentlemen have represented that committee extremely well, and they bring a wealth of experience in their own field, and it's good to have that independence at those meetings, and because they have a different view on some of the items, they can offer a different perspective on looking at some of our business, or the way we do business, and it's good to have that. They don't tell us what to do, they give us advice, and it's greatly accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Janus. Councillor Kelly, I believe that you've worked with both of these gentlemen as well.
Yeah, not too much more to add than Councillor Janus, other than to thank Mr Young and Mr Moore. I think in both of them we get diversity of perspective and experience to round out that committee and its work, so thank you.
Good. Any other commentary? Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. That has been carried. 8.3.4, instruments of delegation. Again, thank you, Ms Havercroft.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report this evening is to present and recommend that we exercise the powers conferred in the Local Government Act for Council to give instruments of delegation through to the Chief Executive and beyond into the sub-delegations. So some of our delegations haven't been done for a while. So the first one is in relation to Section 11, which hasn't been updated since the 27th of June 2023. The second relates to Section 6, Instruments of Delegation, which hasn't been updated since the 26th of April 2023. And finally, Section 18, which hasn't been updated since the 13th of December 2022. Since those times, we've seen changes in personnel and changes in job titles, and the delegations need to be refreshed and updated to ensure that people do have the delegated authority that they thought they had and that they should have as part of their responsibilities of council.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillors Keeble and Councillor Janus. Councillor Keeble.
As read there, there's a lot of recommendations. We won't read them out, but it's really housekeeping to clean that up so people have their delegations that they were employed to have with the changes of staff. So, all good?
Thank you. Councillor Janus.
No. Seems to be a monthly standard item on the agenda.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Excellent. Maintenance, it's called as well. Good. Any other commentary? No? Can I have a show of hands, please? Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Moving on to item 9. Informal meeting of councillors. Recommendation that the summary of informal meetings of councillors for February and March 2024 be received. Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Kelly. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Item 10. Any delegates with reports tonight, please? No, none tonight. Right. Item 11, general business. And I'll start with Councillor Hughes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to bring attention to communication and feedback. So there are many platforms that are used, that council use for communication and feedback, and that is print media, radio, word of mouth, social internet, all of those types of things. And there, as we are all aware, there's a lot of running commentary in the notice boards and things when it comes to what it is that council are up to or wanting public feedback on. I just wanted to reiterate that making a comment on a Facebook post isn't necessarily the best and easiest way to get your formal feedback in. So there are some pretty big things being discussed at the moment, and I just wanted to make note that when it says provide council with feedback, there's a link. So click on the link, provide the formalised feedback in a structured way that can be captured properly, because social media rants can go on and on and on, and I'm just wanting to reiterate the fact that use the channels that are put there on purpose to get your points across. That's all. Thanks.
Well said. Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Nicholas.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hughes. I had something very similar to say. I just wanted to add, not only use the official channels to get your message across, but remember that councillors and council staff go to work every day trying to do their very best, and to bring them down and to say unpleasant and not usually untrue things about the people who are trying to make the Alpine Shire a better place is really offensive, and it's unnecessary. And that also happens on Facebook.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
No general business for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble.
No general business.
Councillor Janus.
No.
No. Okay. All right, I'll call on the CEO. Any general business, please, Mr. Jeremy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to let the public know that we've got a few exciting jobs on our website at the moment. If you're a civil engineer and you're keen to join our team, we've got a few positions, a variety of part-time, full-time, permanent, temporary roles. Come and have a chat to us. We're keen to get you in the team to help deliver some of our exciting projects and deliver our services to council. We've also got the exciting role of the compliance coordinator. So this role helps to audit adherence to planning permit conditions, educate the public on expectations and take action where we see breaches of permit conditions. It's a really important role for council. If you've got any aspirations at all to become a compliance coordinator, we'd love to hear from you. So that's all on jobs. Last one here, I'd like to shout out to our IT team tonight and to our specialist who's come in to help us. This has been the most complex setup we've had for IT that I've been involved in. So we've had 2 people online remotely in different parts of the country. We've had screens everywhere. We've had citizenship ceremonies. We've had briefing sessions, council only time. So well done to the team for keeping us rolling through all of this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well said, and thank you very much. Okay, item 12, motions for which notice has previously been given, none. Item 13, receptions and reading of petitions, there are none. Item 14, documents for sealing. We have 6 documents tonight, 3 of them being section 173s and the rest of them being the instruments of delegation. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Giannis, and has to be someone in the room. Councillor Keeble, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. And that brings us to the close of a meeting at 6:19, which thank you for those that participated tonight. Thank you to our Upper Kiewa Valley Community Association people for being here. I do appreciate that. So I'm declaring the meeting closed. Thank you.